Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching Behind the Brand. And don't forget to subscribe. It actually makes a huge difference to convince the people that don't believe you can watch awesome content like this for free on YouTube. Hope you enjoy the next episode. Thanks for watching.
I'm Rob Ciampa and you're watching Behind the Brand.
Hi, I'm Bryan Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Today I'm here with author of the new book, YouTube Channels for Dummies, and the CMO at Pixability, Rob Ciampa. Rob, welcome to the show.
Brian, great to be here.
I usually ask my guests, how'd you get this job?
How did I get this job?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I didn't start off as a YouTube marketing executive. I started off as an engineer. And as an engineer, we tend to be highly creative. So when I moved over to sales and marketing years ago, I actually started experimenting with video. Again, bringing that engineering creativity to the whole mix. And what I found is video actually moved audiences. You know, people could understand products better. People reacted great to video. So for the past almost 20 years, it's been all about video and marketing.
So Pixability, for those who don't know about Pixability, what is Pixability and what are you guys doing?
Well, Pixability is a dynamite company. Obviously, as the CMO, I'm very, very biased. But we've been in the YouTube business probably longer than anybody else. And our whole focus was initially, how do you find out where your audience is on YouTube and how do you engage them? What type of content should you use? And we ended up building a software platform that identified all that. And so over the years, we've evolved the software. We're probably the top advertising platform for YouTube. We provide amazing insights. We're involved in a lot of media and really a lot of media analysis. So our goal, we service brands and agencies and we light them up on YouTube and help them do amazing things.
So that's, I think, a question everyone wants to know is, how do you find your audience? I mean, is it all scientific or is there a little bit of magic in there too?
Well, when you take a look at YouTube, there's hundreds of millions of YouTube channels, but there's about 2.6 million active channels. And then you've got an audience over 1 billion people. And who are they? Where are they? What do they consume? What do they react to? And as a brand or an agency, you just can't type www.youtube.com and say, I know where they are. And oftentimes, it's counterintuitive. So for the past 5 years, we built an amazing repository of how people react on YouTube. But we're not pulling information just from YouTube. We're looking at social, we're looking at Facebook, and which allows people to make very, very intelligent decisions about where their audience is and what they're reacting to. So that's been our core thing for years, and it took a lot of technology. You just can't guess anymore. It's too big. Things are trending. You can go after channels for advertising that have lots of views and maybe the worst spend of your money. Find out who really matters.
So I know a lot of entrepreneurs and brands and marketing people watch this show. What's your opinion? Do you think now, today, is the best time or the worst time to start something new? I mean, given the fact that the barriers to entry are so low, everyone can have a channel these days. What do you think?
That's a great question. We've seen over the years, and I've been pretty vocal about people doing stupid things on YouTube. And the book really came out of how do you do things well on YouTube and how do I apply some science to it and how do I apply some discipline to it. So now, and especially, we just released a study that took a look at what the big brands, the top 100 global brands are doing. And over the past year, we've seen incredible discipline. They're producing better content. They're thinking more like programmers.
Like, give us an example of some of the brands that are doing it well.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Puma. And Puma's done some great things. I'd say Puma is doing amazing things on YouTube. And what they did is they're looking at YouTube as a worldwide platform. Right. They oftentimes do multi-country campaigns, but they tie it to very, very contemporary, what's going on in football these days. And they build campaigns around that. The other organization I really love is L'Oreal. So L'Oreal, great team there, very, very cutting edge. And if you look at L'Oreal, their ability to actually engage their audience over the past several years has been probably the best in the industry.
So what are they doing to engage these audiences?
So in the case of L'Oreal, what L'Oreal realized is they said, look, as a brand, initially, we might not be having the dialogue that a lot of the creators are able to have. So what L'Oreal did is they put together what's called Destination Beauty.
Hey guys, it's Aspen. So I'm here on the L'Oreal Destination Beauty channel, and I'm so excited to be a part of this and to get to show you guys some of my videos.
Where they brought in independent voices that could speak independently, working with L'Oreal to engage that very, very coveted beauty audience. And they've done so in a great way, and they've also really leveraged engagement. And that's what's fantastic about YouTube in particular. It's a great engagement platform. It's not just a place where you put videos, it's a place where you actually have a customer dialogue. And that's what L'Oreal has done extremely well.
So as the audiences grow, subscriber count and view count, I mean, how are brands controlling that conversation? Because YouTube as a platform, I mean, a lot of criticism is that they haven't changed and updated and evolved like other platforms. Like the comment system is pretty terrible, right? As it scales, it's really difficult. So how are brands dealing with that?
Well, I think brands in particular are evolving. Are all brands evolving and doing great things? It goes back to the study that we recently completed. The brands, we've seen an incredible evolution over the past year in particular about what they're doing with their channel. They're not just throwing content up on YouTube, which was often the case. We saw a lot historically repurposed commercials. And so people would come to Pixability and they say, hey, we've got these commercials that we're doing great. Let's put them on YouTube and get 1 million views. And our response was, it's not going to work. And a lot of them are now creating genuine content specific to the digital audience, very different from the linear television audience. And they're doing that. They're actually the comment section, although the comment section gets a lot of grief, and clearly, you've expressed that. The comment section done right is where that dialogue occurs, and that's where you become genuine. So the whole engagement, if you're genuine, people are gonna like your videos, they're gonna share your videos. In that comment section, and we cover this in the book, you may get some great video suggestions there as well. So a phenomenal place to do things.
So who should be on that button? If it's L'Oreal, oftentimes it seems, at least is my perception, that the first line of defense gets the least qualified, least respected, least paid person on the button. Right? I mean, look at the cash register, right? Yep. You go to any retail store, it's some teenager or college kid who's underpaid, undervalued, underrespected, and yet they're the first experience. So who should be at that button on the comments for a brand?
So let's think about comments, and let's think about what happened with social media. And a lot of brands and other organizations, they put, again, that college intern is going to handle our social media because they speak digital without an accent. And oftentimes it was a one-way dialogue. And what we tell brands is, if you're going to be genuine, have a common voice. Have somebody with some authority who's going to turn around and interact and be genuine, as opposed to just liking a comment or doing something. So we tell folks, the customers that succeed on social is the ones that invested in the right voice for social, and they had the right level of people there. The same is true for YouTube. Have somebody who's going to have a voice, but at the same time may turn around and actually come out and be a public face as well. And that's really where the investment has to go.
So it sounds like you're advising against maybe having it be a spoke in the wheel of someone's duty. So maybe it's a PR manager and he's got to push the buttons, but also 20 other duties. You're saying maybe have a dedicated person.
Yeah. I think you have to have a dedicated person, and also somebody who's very, very intimate with the product. It's tougher for a brand sometimes to echo that voice, and I think there's a little bit of resistance to it. This is why a lot of the independent creators, especially in beauty or even in consumer electronics, it's the independent people that have the authority and they're genuine. And that's why they end up getting the subscribers, they get the views, and ultimately, they get the attention. And the brands sometimes have a tough time crossing over to that. And that's why I think the smarter brands are embracing the independent voices in a good way, or they're actually generating their own voice.
Let's go back to, is this the best time or the worst time? Just give me a quick answer. Is this the best time or the worst time to create content?
Oh, here we are at VidCon. This is a great time to produce content. It's never been easier. And people are going to say, well, isn't there a lot out there? Yes, but again, if you're genuine, you're having a great time, and you're reaching that audience, you actually want to produce this. And the other thing to think about is, content isn't a one-shot deal. Think about what happens when you go to a YouTube channel. Okay, what happens when you watch a video? People say, well, I watch a video and then they forget what they do next. They watch another one. So as a brand, as you're producing your content, help them on their journey, give them lots of great content to absorb.
Let's talk about that for a second. So how do you define success in terms of a YouTube channel? And let's put it in the context of brands. You know, maybe there's a lot of creators who are watching this, so I'll get to that in a second, but in the context of brands, how do you define success?
Success is going to depend on the business that you're in. And there's no one success model for YouTube at all. Some brands are actually interested in brand lift and brand awareness, and their channel is going to be geared toward that. So what they're looking for is they're going to be looking for people coming to their channel. They're going to be looking for engagement statistics, etc.
So who's doing that? Like, who's looking for awareness? What brands come to mind as you think about channels and what's out there?
Well, it depends on the industry.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we look at marketing, you know, we have a lot of brand level marketing, and then we have performance marketing where people want to sell. So for the past several years, we've seen industries, consumer packaged goods that aren't selling directly. That could be beauty, even the larger goods like automotive. Suddenly that matters a lot, and what they want to do is they want to get the message out there. But what we're starting to see is the e-tailers. Initially they were hesitant about YouTube because, geez, what do I do? People aren't necessarily going to click. And what we're seeing now is a lot more people are clicking on videos and doing amazing things. So you're seeing organizations like Crutchfield doing that, Elf Cosmetics, you know, who I worked with in the past, you know, doing that. So again, ringing the register. So we have both the awareness world, and especially over the next couple of years, we're going to see, especially since you can click on videos now, and I think brands are getting smarter. Once people click, you're bringing them back to some place where you can get a call to action. You know, they end up doing that as well.
Let's go back to social media a little bit. So how important is this sort of diversified portfolio point of view? You know, like not one platform, narrow and deep, but thinking about using, whether it's Snapchat or Facebook or Insta or whatever, to help bolster or augment what they're already doing?
I think it's a complicated question because all of a sudden you have a plethora of social platforms available. All of a sudden you have a lot of social video available.
Right.
You know, do I use Snapchat or don't I? What's the tie-in with Facebook video? What's the tie-in with YouTube video? And candidly, I think there's a lot of confusion there. There are different metrics. For a lot of the brands, take a look again. Where's my audience? Okay, and they're going to be in several places. So generally, as much as people want to deal with one platform, they're going to be dealing with several platforms. But what they have to understand, you just can't take the same thing on Facebook and put it on YouTube, and maybe do something funky with Snapchat.
Well, I think we're past that. I think if there was such a thing as Web 3.0, we're entering it, or maybe beyond. But like, talk about how you think brands could utilize those other platforms to help support what they're doing, for example, on YouTube.
I think brands, the challenge with multiple platforms is ultimately, what are my KPIs? And I hate using the KPI term because it's yet another overused marketing three-letter acronym, but it matters. You know, how do you measure success? And then how can I use these platforms? How do they tie into that success measurement? And every single platform has different success measurements, and that becomes a bit of a challenge. So it's how we're measuring success, and ultimately how are we measuring content on those platforms.
Well, so how should we be measuring success? Like, what should those KPIs look like? I mean, because a lot of the traditionalists will say, all right, well, here's VidCon, for example. We showed up at VidCon, we bought a booth, it cost X amount. How many sales did we make? And that's our ROI. But you can't measure social that way. Not always. How should we be measuring it if we're a brand? And what should some of those KPIs be?
Okay, so off the bat, I think we've seen a change in the brand CMO. I think we've seen a change in the agencies that support it. And things have become a lot more quantitative. So when we say, what KPIs matter, oftentimes we're seeing a lot more than we did, say, 5 to 10 years ago. We're seeing a lot more quantitative KPIs. Now,
give me an example.
The easy answer historically on YouTube is, hey, what's my measure of success? Views. Okay, I can turn around and buy as many views as I want. Views are easy. And if you look at YouTube in particular, all of a sudden, in terms of what makes a channel valuable, the algorithms were changed a couple of years ago where views don't matter as much.
Let me talk about that for a second, because that's sort of a taboo point. Not a lot of people like to talk about buying views. So explain that maybe, how that's done. Is that white hat, black hat, red hat? Like, is that through the YouTube platform, like the ad buy? Like, how does that work, and what do you recommend?
Well, you can always buy views, okay, and the platforms will allow that. And it's incumbent upon, whether it's the brand or the agency to say, what do the views do for me? Let me give an example.
Yeah.
So several years back, there was an East Coast bank serving a market from Washington, D.C. up to Boston. They were looking for middle to upper middle class clientele. And they decided they had a very, very innovative person in charge. So what that person did, it's like, I want to reach my audience with video. Unfortunately, in that example, they ended up spending a good deal of money, and they got as many views as they wanted, but nothing happened with the business.
Well, where does one buy views? Like, are they on the corner, people scalping the views?
Well, there are media companies that will sell views, but what we found in this particular example is that the views that were purchased overseas. Sure. So why would somebody in the Philippines or in Eastern Europe want to do something with an East Coast US bank?
They're unqualified.
So it's important, you can always buy views, but you can buy the right views. And this is what's really important. And this is what's great, whether it's going to be Facebook or YouTube, some other platform. If you really know your audience and you know where they are, you buy the views where they are. And I'll give an example. Puma was a phenomenal campaign for us. 20 plus countries, and what we found is paid is very important. People think, well, advertising bad, I don't want to buy a view, but what we found with Puma, the people that watched the ad, 53% went on to watch a video on the channel itself, and then more videos, so all of a sudden you had organic traffic.
You got click-through.
That's a big deal. Click-through, but think about it. You're watching one video, then another, and what's happening is you've got the audience attention and the prospect's attention for maybe a half an hour. You can't buy that, on TV without spending a fortune, and that's what's great about digital video.
Yeah, that's millions. Let's talk about getting stuck. What do you think gets people stuck? Now I'm talking, let's talk maybe creator, or let's get more of the entrepreneur, because 99 out of 100 of these companies that start, or people that start something, it just dies on the vine, What do you think is getting people stuck? You wrote this book, YouTube for Dummies. We're 10 years into this thing. It's still just a baby.
Yep.
And yet, a book for dummies just came out this year, 2015. What's up with that?
So with YouTube channels for dummies, what we found, and we told people from the get-go, the thing that gets people stuck, and we cover this in the book, is everybody wants to produce a video that's the equivalent of Avatar. Well,
Production value.
Oh, it's going to be fabulous. Yeah. And so they go to somebody who wants to take all their money and produce Avatar, and they blow their whole marketing budget and nothing happens. Right. We tell people, like, look, first of all, start off with your iPhone, with your Android device. Get comfortable with video. Get on camera. Be genuine. And don't try to be a perfectionism. So perfectionism is the #1, cause of failure within YouTube. Screw up. Be genuine. Make mistakes. But, don't let that hold you back. And so once you're comfortable with that, and with a lot of the people that we work with, once they're comfortable, they start producing additional videos. And it's like from your business, the first video way back when you started, yeah, it was probably a little rough around the edges, but now you get these works of art, it's great. But yeah, it's getting there. So that's the whole thing, produce more. Don't be a perfectionist, be yourself and get in front of the camera.
So it's about execution. Yeah. How long do you give that great idea? Let's go back to the brand context, talk to brands. How long do you give that great idea before you cut bait, before you think it's not working?
What's a great idea? Is a great idea a viral video? Because that's one thing, a lot of brands that we see, their great idea, they want it to be a viral video. And over the years, I think a lot of my reputation has been on saying stop even thinking about viral video. Viral video is stupid. We often say, betting on viral video is like betting on your retirement with lottery tickets. It's just a stupid thing to do. So the big idea is, it's not just one idea. Integrate what you're doing into an overall campaign. Is it a new product? So it's not a standalone thing, this whole video concept. It's part of a broader campaign, and tied into that, an experiment. Because if you're placing one bet even within a campaign, not necessarily a good thing. So what you want to turn around and do is you want to constantly be experimenting.
Should brands be monetizing their videos? Like clicking the monetize button on YouTube?
No.
Why not?
At least the larger brands shouldn't. Okay, so on the monetize element, because when you monetize, ads are going to be placed against it. Okay, we cover this in the book as well. You want to control your voice. Okay, you want to be, from a brand perspective, you want to actually target folks that are monetizing and are going to be taking your content. So should brands monetize? No. Should creators? If creators are doing great stuff, yes.
What kind of advertising budget would you recommend for brands? You know, give us a range of what they should be spending on YouTube advertising.
Well, I'd like them all to take that whole television budget and do it. And we're seeing the shift, and it's actually an important question because we're asked it quite a bit. You know, if the television budget is this big, you know, what's my YouTube and online video budget? It's usually that big. Right. And we ask the question, you're advertising on television, and oftentimes they'll advertise on television and they'll see an uptick. So there's an ROI associated with it. But from the digital video perspective, what we find in a lot of our research, and one of the things at Pixability, we've done YouTube research and we have a lot of data going back 5 years, is we find once you do a digital video advertising campaign, the results actually occur organically, you know, possibly 1 to 2 weeks later. So, you know, what we tell folks, it's, okay, who's your audience first of all? If you're selling something that's geared toward a millennial audience, okay, video is going to be the way you reach them. Okay, so you're not going to be hitting them with print or a linear, okay, hit them with digital. So it depends on the audience, and for some brands, if it's a product oriented toward them, you know, take your entire budget. Okay, so in terms of numbers, we've seen YouTube campaigns in the millions, reaching a broad international audience, or we'll see something if it's localized, say it's a local McDonald's running a campaign, you know, that could be under $10,000.
And what kind of ad units should they be buying?
So that's always an interesting question. People think, well, it's YouTube, so it's going to be video. And YouTube has several ad formats. We cover, actually, there's a plethora of ad formats that occur within YouTube. Various types of display ads. You can advertise within the Google Display Network. But let's keep it simple. Let's talk about Trueview ads. And those are the ads, and there's two types of Trueview ads. There are the ones you can skip in 5 seconds. And people often say to us, it's like, I skip those ads, why would I want to? The advertiser doesn't pay. And in fact, those skippable ads are incredibly effective. Okay, but there's also a display element on YouTube where all of a sudden, if the video's playing, you may have a display ad up there as well. So it depends on the type of video and where the audience is in their consideration cycle.
Why are those 5-second skippable ads so effective?
Because the people who watch the ads, the ones who don't skip, are the ones that are interested. So from the brand perspective, you're actually paying for ads to the people who care. So Trueview has been, you know, when you look at some of YouTube's recent announcements about their success and their growth within the whole Google empire, a lot of that is Trueview. A lot of that is the ads that matter, and people are targeting better. But again, brands are only paying for, you know, if they're using Trueview, for the ads that reach the audience.
Talk about how important culture is. You know, culture, whether you're a creator or a brand, it's completely apparent whether or not you're authentic or genuine. What's the culture like at Pixability? And then how does that translate into helping your customers be their truest selves?
Oh, great question. Culture is very important. One of the things that we've nurtured over the years at Pixability is you can't fake culture. You can't come in and say, well, my culture, we're going to be innovative, we're going to be cutting edge, you know, we're going to be hip, we're going to be doing crazy things. Sure, you may want that, but what you have to do is you have to assemble a team where the culture actually comes from the bottom up, and you want to nurture that. So at Pixability, you know, we're online video fanatics, and probably the one job in the world where you don't get fired for watching YouTube at work. And so that makes it really, really fun. And we end up, we're an environment, we're sharing. And so oftentimes we're replicating what the audience is doing. If we see a great video, you know, within the Pixability office, we're watching that video. We're sharing that video. We're talking about that video. And then we're looking at who's the brand that's doing it? Who's the creative? Why are they doing it? So we tend to be, you know, very, very enthusiastic about what we do, but there's a deep sense of curiosity. But also, is this video going to work? Why do they do it? And as much as we look at the great stuff that's working, we oftentimes see the stuff that isn't working out in the marketplace, and we also ask why, and we try to say, what are the assumptions? And whether we like it or not, when you look at online video, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, it's a little bit of art and a good deal of science these days. And we try to blend them both, and things change, and sometimes on a daily basis. So what worked yesterday may not work today, and that's what makes the job fun.
I know that Pixability is deeply partnered with YouTube, and you guys are really helping them with the heavy lifting and doing a lot of amazing stuff. I also know that Skynet is always watching, but with that in mind, tell me what YouTube's doing wrong. In other words, what should they be doing today that they're not doing? You know, whether it's functionality or UX or whatever, what aren't they doing right now that they should be? And let's be critical. Let's really try to take a bite out of this, because the right person hears it, Susan, you never know, we could be change makers.
You know, we've been working with YouTube for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think what makes us unique is we've been working with YouTube from the brand perspective. So a lot of people, a lot of technology companies came into the YouTube space to work with creators. We didn't. We came in to work with brands, so our need for data has always been pretty heavy. And so we're one of the largest ingestors of YouTube data in the world. And YouTube also says we're sometimes the harshest critics. And we always want more. We want more demographic here. We want this here. And they don't give it as fast as we want, but that's not a critique, because they're very methodical. When you've got a billion viewers, you just can't turn around and make wholesale changes. So yeah, we make a lot of noise because we want this, we want this, we want this.
I want the dirt though, Rob. Give me some dirt. I mean, this could be off the record, right? I mean, give me some of this
nothing's
dirt.
ever off the record, Brian. You know that. We've had a great relationship for a reason, and I would say a couple years back, and Susan's been a great addition. Her executive leadership at YouTube's been fabulous, but a couple years back, I was more critical. You didn't have access to the team. The third-party ecosystem for companies like Pixability wasn't there. And for a lot of times, I also ran sales for many years at Pixability, and I was going head-to-head with YouTube for many years. And it was hard.
So it's gotten better.
Oh, it's been much better. And even here at VidCon, you know, last night, YouTube had all its ecosystem providers together, very blunt dialogues, and we're saying this is what we need, this is what we need, and we're actually seeing the responsiveness. And that's what's really been ideal.
Is Pixability, with all that data, thinking about turning that data into graphics, like infographics? You know, they're much easier to read, easier to use. Talk to us about infographics and the need to sort of visualize the data.
You know, much like video transforms a lot of the advertising that we're doing, the brands, you know, like things that are visual. The infographic is always a great thing, and one of the things that we did recently last week is we wanted to take a look at what's happened with brands over the past year. And so, you know, we looked at the top 100 global brands as sort of the proxy. And so we actually teamed up with YouTube and produced a series of infographics that really showed growth in the marketplace. And we really took a look at what's happening on the subscriber realm, you know, what's happening in views. In fact, you know, we could have said, hey, views have gone up with the top 100 global brands. They've gone up 87% to over 40 billion views. And we could have said that and used words for it, Brian, but we used infographics to really reflect that. We did the same thing with subscribers as well. And then we took a look at share of voice, you know, where the actual views are, what videos are being shared, what people are watching, and we use infographics to convey that. So a lot of people looking to make decisions on YouTube are using our infographics that we're doing with YouTube as a way to actually articulate that.
We've been talking about mobile for a long time. Talk to me about that and how it's increasingly becoming more important, especially with YouTube.
We love mobile. And last year, we looked at the beauty industry, and what we found with mobile is we found this interesting trend. is we looked at search patterns and viewing patterns on YouTube, and what we found is there were distinct spikes. Early in the morning, one was at between 7 and 8 a.m., and the other was 3 hours later. And those were East Coast spikes, and those were beauty tutorials. And what we found is that a lot of people that were looking at YouTube content were actually taking their mobile devices into their bathrooms and into their bedrooms. And that's a big deal. And in the television world, you're not going to lug your 50-inch plasma TV into your bathroom to watch a tutorial video. You're watching it on your mobile phone or your tablet. So that's thing one with mobile. And obviously we're seeing the percentage of views, more than half an hour mobile. The other thing that we're seeing with mobile, and very, very different pattern from non-mobile, is that when people are watching on mobile, they're actually watching more. So they're not necessarily jumping off a video, which surprises a lot of people.
Yeah, why do you think that's the case?
I think mobile has them more captive, and there's a lot more attention. And the caveat there is we've seen people watching longer videos on mobile, and that's a big deal.
I wonder if it has anything to do with like work time versus personal time. You're at work, it's sort of against the rules to sit there and watch. Maybe sometimes it's even blocked, but maybe your phone is not blocked. Is that part of it?
Your phone's not blocked.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen patterns there per se. But again, we're looking at things holistically.
It's interesting.
We're looking at business and consumer video content, and no, that mobile device, you've got their attention. The one thing we're not seeing in mobile yet is people oftentimes say, well, should I put something different for mobile? The only thing we tell them, we haven't seen brands necessarily using different content for mobile versus say, non-mobile. But what we're seeing is on mobile, make sure you can see the faces. Yeah. So be more conscious of that and be more conscious of what it's going to look like on a small screen.
Right. I was going to ask the same question. So does that mean we should be sort of come full circle here, like started with the under 3-minute golden mark, then long form was proven, 5, 7, 35 minutes, doesn't matter. Are we back to that?
No.
Shorter is better?
No, absolutely not. Not on mobile. In fact, it's, and let me just preface that with, how long should a video be?
Yeah.
And our quirky response is, as long as a rope. And people say, what do you mean by that? Well, what are you using a rope for? They say, well, it depends. Yeah. The same with video. If it's the first set of engagement where you're trying to meet an audience, yeah, that may be shorter. But as they get to know you better, okay, they're going to watch a longer video with you, every single time. So we're huge fans of long form. I think we were the first guys to come out and say, hey, long form is good. You can actually use it. We use a lot of our data for that. And we found a couple of years back that 10, 20, 30-minute videos, not second videos, were actually performing dynamite.
So you're preaching to the choir, because the way I see it is, would you rather spend 3 minutes with Rob Ciampa or Mark Cuban, or 30 minutes? And the answer is always 30.
Well, if you're talking to my wife, she's probably going to say, well, maybe 30 seconds, and let's go back to the TV slot. But for interesting people like you, Brian, 30 minutes, why don't we do this for an hour?
Maybe we will. Let's go back a little bit to some mistakes. Let's talk about Pixability's mistakes. And I ask that because, well, fear and, failure, all that, those are stigmas that people have a hard time getting over. But talk to us about some of the mistakes you guys have made early on, or maybe even recently, that you've learned a ton from that you could share with brands who are trying to make it happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
what's gone wrong?
I think the successful companies are oftentimes the ones that have made the most mistakes. And with us, same thing. We've been in a dynamic marketplace. We competed with YouTube for years, and now we're working very closely with them, which is great. But I think early on, we overestimated production value. We were much more involved in production, and we shifted more toward marketing and media, which is very, very important. Because early on, what people would take their entire budget and they'd spend it on a video, and we learned early on, no, you want to break that budget up. You want to produce something good, but you have to market it. And we used to give the whole Hollywood metaphor. Hollywood spending $1 on production and then another $1 to put people in seats, and the same is true, and we found that out. We also found out that a lot of smaller companies that didn't have the budget, even for a series of videos, we were trying to help them, but the reality is once you're in video, you've got to tell a story, you've got to produce multiple videos, and we were trying to help folks who only wanted to produce one video, big mistake. And then ultimately, I think we're dealing with the agency business too early, and what was hard about that is the agencies go through their own life cycle, and what we found is the agencies weren't ready a couple years ago. Now, they're ready now, but we got to market a little bit early, and it forced us to go to the brands directly early on, and now we're doing a lot more work, almost the majority of our business, with the agencies that service those brands.
Yeah, I know you guys do a lot of agency work. Is there ever like this perception there's some sort of conflict? Oh, well, Pixability must be an agency, and we're an agency, therefore we can't get along with it. How does that dynamic work?
Yeah, it's a great question. What we found is when we were in that transition, we've always been a technology company. And before the agencies were ready, we had to service the brands directly. And so we kind of smelled like an agency, even though we were a tech platform. And last year, we made a very conscious decision when we announced our V3 version of our product. It was very product focused, and it was clear that we were a product company. So we made the decision, product foot forward. We put in all sorts of training for agencies, and we've got some agency partners. And what's great about the agencies is now that a lot of the agencies have turned around and gone for video, and they understand video, and they understand video marketing, and they understand things like YouTube media in a much more sophisticated way, our business is so much fun. The agencies come in and we're having dialogues that we weren't having a couple of years ago.
Well, you guys are the heroes because you've got the metrics, you've got the analytics to back up everything that all of you together want to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we have lots of the data, and we share a lot of that data. I like to think it's our metrics, but I think we're also fun to work with. I think our reputation is we're always kind of pushing the cutting edge, also in marketing, which makes it fun. And especially for us, we've done some crazy videos on our own. So, it's always interesting is I think we do more video content, for our own marketing purposes than most. And recently, it was funny, when we announced our V3 product, I told my marketing team, it's like, I don't want a boring product video. I said, I want you guys to really do some crazy stuff. And they ended up going up to New Hampshire and shooting a video with an incredible production team, and we shot in a grain silo with multiple screens and all this funky lighting, and that's the way we introduced our product. So, gotta eat your own dog food, right?
Yeah. All right, we've been spending a few minutes with CMO at Pixability, Rob Ciampa. Rob, thanks for being on the show.
Bryan, absolute pleasure. Thank you, and all the great work that you've done.
Thank you.